So, good afternoon everyone, how are you all? Shall we begin the class or shall we wait for the others to join? Okay, we will begin the class. So, today we are going to learn about chemical coordination and integration. So, basically this is about endocrine system. Okay, we will be doing PYQs, along with that we will be going into concepts as usual. So, our first question for today is, first we will be dealing about hypothalamus, pituitary gland and pineal gland. The first question for today is, hormones stored and released from neurohypophysis are, tell me the answer. Is it oxytocin and vasopressin, FSH and LH, or prolactin and vasopressin, thyroid stimulating hormone and oxytocin? So, neurohypophysis, which means posterior pituitary. Yes, posterior pituitary, that is oxytocin and vasopressin, otherwise it is also called as ADH, antidiuretic hormone, will be stored and will be released from the posterior pituitary, that is oxytocin and vasopressin. Very good. Hypersecretion of growth hormone in adults does not cause further increase in the height, because if it cause further increase, then it will leads to acromegaly. It doesn't happen. Why? Why is it? Because of the growth hormones becomes inactive in adults, or this one, epiphyseal plates close after the adolescent, or the bones lose their sensitivity to growth hormone in adults, muscle fibers do not grow in size after birth. So, the option is, the B for Bombay is correct. Epiphyseal plate means the growth plates. When they reach adolescent, they fuse. So, they close, which means they fuse, and they doesn't undergo any further elongation of the bones will be taking place after the adolescence, that is once they attain the perfect height. Understood? Once they attain the normal height. In the adults it does, even though secretion, hypersecretion of growth hormone, this they won't grow, or the acromegaly doesn't take place, because the epiphyseal plates close after the adolescent. There is the answer. GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone, a hypothalamic hormone needed in reproduction, acts on, where does it act on?
Option B.
That is anterior pituitary gland and stimulates secretion of LH and FSH. So, yes, actually this is a releasing hormone, isn't it? It acts on the anterior pituitary. Anterior pituitary means pars distalis. Anterior pituitary means pars distalis. When it sends the signal, this is GnRH, that is gonadotropin releasing hormone, is secreted in the hypothalamus. It sends the signal to pituitary and stimulates the secretion of LH and FSH, that is luteinizing hormone and follicular stimulating hormone. So, we will see the other options. And secrete LH and oxytocin? No, because secretion of oxytocin is a hypothalamic hormone. And posterior pituitary? No, posterior pituitary only, what it does? What is the function of posterior pituitary? It stores hormone as such as ADH and oxytocin. It stores, posterior pituitary just stores the hormone, which means B for Bombay is the correct answer. And now tell me, what does LH do and FSH? What is the function of LH and FSH? Tell me. LH, that is luteinizing hormone, it acts on Leydig cell and yes, Chris?
Secrete androgen.
Yes, it secretes androgens. Then FSH is a follicular stimulating hormone which stimulate follicular build up around the primary follicle, isn't it? Yes. And also it does spermatogenesis in male. Yes, very good. So that is B for Bombay is the correct answer. The posterior pituitary gland is not a true endocrine gland because we discussed it. Tell me. Is it because it's under the regulation of hypothalamus, or it secretes enzymes, it is provided with the duct, or it stores and releases the hormones? Posterior pituitary is not a true endocrine gland. Does posterior pituitary secretes any kind of hormone? I mean itself, like produces any kind of hormone? What it does? It only stores vasopressin, that is ADH, antidiuretic hormone, and oxytocin. And where does these produce? These are produced in hypothalamus. Okay, and these are stored in posterior pituitary. These are stored in posterior pituitary. Otherwise you call it as neurohypophysis. Posterior pituitary otherwise called as neurohypophysis. Understood? Or pars nervosa, anything. So D for Delhi is the correct answer. Any doubts? Any doubts? Shall we move on to the next question? Which one of the following hormones, though synthesized elsewhere, is stored and released by the master gland? What is called master gland?
Pituitary.
Yes, pituitary. Pituitary is called master gland. Now, which one of the following hormone, though synthesized elsewhere, somewhere else? Yes?
Option D.
Option D, yes. So, it is synthesized somewhere else. Somewhere else here means it is synthesized in hypothalamus, antidiuretic hormone. Otherwise, you call it as vasopressin. Where it is synthesized, produced in hypothalamus and is stored and released by the master gland, that is pituitary, is antidiuretic hormone. Easy as that, isn't it? Which one of the following are not under the control of parathyroid hormone? We need to find which are not under the control of. Whenever you see not, just underline it. Okay, maintenance of water and electrolyte balance. Yes, it is does thyroid hormones. Did I read it as parathyroid? No, it is thyroid hormone. Okay. Okay, maintenance of water and electrolyte balance. Yes, this is actually maintenance of water and electrolyte balance is controlled by thyroid hormone. Regulation of basal metabolic rate is metabolism, it controls. Normal rhythm of sleep wake cycle? No. Which controls this? It is melatonin. Melatonin controls this and it is secreted by pineal gland. Development of immune system. Development of immune system is by thymus or thymosin hormone. And support the process of RBC formation. Yes, it does have. We need to find which of the following are not under the control of. We need to find, which means C and D are not under the control of thyroid hormone. That is D for Delhi is a correct answer. Understood? So moving on to the next question. Which one of the following statements are correct with respect to the hormone and its function? Okay. Thyrocalcitonin regulates blood calcium level. Yes, it's just saying regulates, fine. Actually, it lowers the blood calcium level. In males, FSH and androgen regulate spermatogenesis. Yes. Hypothyroidism can lead to goiter. Here they mean simple goiter. simple goiter. Does hyperthyroidism lead to simple goiter? No, actually it is hypothyroidism lead to simple goiter. So which means this is wrong. Glucocorticoids are secreted by adrenal medulla. Glucocorticoids are secreted by which? Adrenal medulla or adrenal cortex? Glucocorticoids are secreted in adrenal cortex, not adrenal medulla, which means this is also wrong. Parathyroid hormone is regulated by circulating levels of sodium ions. Parathyroid is associated with the regulation of calcium ions, which means this statement is also wrong. We need to find the correct statements. That is 1 and A and B are the correct statements. B for Bombay here is a correct option. Understanding? Any doubts regarding this question? Yes, no doubts. Given below are two statements. Statement 1, parathyroid hormone acts on bones and stimulate the process of bone reabsorption. Yes, which means it increase the calcium percentage, that is levels in blood. So which means this is correct. The parathyroid hormone acts on bones and stimulates the process of bone reabsorption. Okay. The parathyroid hormone along with thyrocalcitonin plays a significant role in carbohydrate metabolism. No. Calcium metabolism. Calcium. We are learning about calcium, right? So these both play a significant role in calcium metabolism. How much calcium should be there present in the blood or not present in the blood? Especially parathyroid hormone increase the calcium level in the blood, and thyrocalcitonin decrease the calcium level in the blood. So these two act opposite to each other in function, which means this statement is wrong because they have given carbohydrate metabolism. It is actually calcium metabolism. So 1 is true and 2 is false. Yes. Given below are two statements. One is labeled as assertion and another is labeled as reason. You need to find. During pregnancy, the level of thyroxine, okay, thyroid hormone, thyroxine is a thyroid hormone, is increased in the maternal blood. Is it correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it's definitely correct. Now we'll see the reason. Because pregnancy is characterized by metabolic changes in the mother. So the thing is, what does this thyroxine does? Basal, it is, the function is basal metabolic rate, right? So anyway, why the basal metabolic rate will be increased in the pregnancy during the pregnancy? Why? Because the metabolic because there will be lot of things going on in the mother also as well as the fetus also, the development of fetus also. So anyway, the high metabolic rate will be there. For in order to maintain that high metabolic rate, we need to produce, then the body need to produce high thyroxine. So this is the reason. Will it explains the assertion? Pregnancy is a category. Yes. So both A and R are correct, and R is the correct explanation of A. B for Bombay is the correct answer. Which of the following are not the effect of parathyroid hormone? It stimulates the process of bone reabsorption. Correct. Decrease calcium level in blood. Parathyroid. What did I tell you? It increases the calcium level in blood. It increases. So which means this is wrong. Reabsorption of calcium by renal tubules. Yes. In the renal tubules, from the yesterday excretion chapter, when we were learning, the reabsorption takes place, right? Whatever necessary is there, it will be reabsorbed back where it will be reabsorbed and it will be given into blood itself. Reabsorption of calcium ions by the renal tubules actually increase the calcium level in the blood. So, it explains, yes. Decrease the absorption of calcium from the digested food. Why should be decrease? Actually, we are increasing the calcium amount in the blood, right? So, it should be increase in the absorption of calcium from the digested food, which means this is wrong. Increase metabolism of carbohydrate. No, it has nothing to do with that. Parathyroid. We are only saying about the calcium levels in the blood as the role of parathyroid hormone. Now, we need to find which are not the effects. We need to find the wrong statements, that is B, D and E, B, D, E. B, D, E are the incorrect statements. So, C is the correct option. Any doubts? Which of the following hormones can play a significant role in osteoporosis? Osteoporosis means that is reabsorption of calcium from bones lead to weak bones. Pores means that is weak bones. So, one thing we know, that is parathyroid hormone leads to this, because reabsorption of calcium takes place from the bones in order to increase the level of calcium in blood. So, parathyroid hormone is there, so which means this is wrong. Okay, and okay, between these two. Now, between these two, we have with that a combination of estrogen and prolactin. Does prolactin have anything to do with the calcium absorption, reabsorption or the bone? No, like indirectly sometimes. Okay. Now, coming to the estrogen. Estrogen actually doesn't allow osteoporosis. So, if you might have heard, okay, in menopause, after the menopause, which means there will be no estrogen secretion, right? Estrogen secretion will not be there after the menopause. So, women often will get bone issues, that is especially they get osteoporosis when there is no estrogen. If estrogen is there, it prevents osteoporosis. So, the hormones play in significant roles are estrogen and parathyroid hormones. Parathyroid you already know about. The estrogen actually it stops this one, osteoporosis, is prevent osteoporosis. But when the women attain menopause, there will be no estrogen levels in the body, which leads to osteoporosis. They get bone issues, weaker bones after around 50, isn't it? So, that is because there will be no estrogen, which means C is the correct answer. Significant roles are estrogen and parathyroid hormone play a significant roles in this. Understood? Thymosin is responsible for. What is thymosin? Thymosin is a hormone produced by thymus gland. Decrease the production of T lymphocytes? No. Thymosin, what is the main function? Function is defense. Okay. Function is defense, which means production of T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes in the body. Production in a sense, maturation of T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes in the body, maturation. So, decreased production of T lymphocytes. Why will it decrease the production of T lymphocytes? If there is a decrease in the production of T lymphocytes, it will lead to problems in immunity, right? So, it is actually increasing the immunity, that is immune system, which means this is wrong. Inhibiting the production of antibodies, not inhibiting, actually it is promoting. Decreasing the blood calcium levels in old individuals, has got nothing to do with the calcium levels. Increased production of T lymphocytes, this is true. Easy question, that is D4 Delhi is a correct answer. Thymosin is produced by thymus. What thymus does, or the thymosin, its role is in defense, body defense. So, in immunity, giving immunity to the body, What is giving the immunity? Increasing production of T lymphocytes is giving the immunity. Simple as that. Identify the hormone with its correct matching of source and function. Okay. Atrial natriuretic factor, ventricular walls of, okay. Increase the blood pressure? No. Actually, ANF, repeatedly we have learned this, it's a vasodilator, which decrease the blood pressure. Vasodilator means it is dilating. If this is a this thing of the artery, I mean the blood vessel, the size, it dilates the blood vessel, which means it is decreasing the blood pressure. Oxytocin, posterior pituitary, growth and maintenance of mammary gland. No. Maintenance of mammary gland, growth, actually development of mammary gland. Which hormone is the major one here? It is prolactin. Very good. Prolactin. Melatonin, pineal gland, regulate the normal rhythm of sleep wake cycle. Perfect. It is perfect. Yes. Melatonin, it is produced by pineal gland. What it does, it regulates the normal rhythm of sleep wake cycle, or otherwise you call it as biological clock. Biological clock. Progesterone, anyway we got the answer, we will just see. Progesterone, corpus luteum, yes, stimulate and growth and stimulation of growth and activities of female secondary sex organs. Actually it is this function true? Why it is not true? And what does stimulation of growth and activities of the female secondary sex organs is done by which organ, which hormone? It is done by estrogen, not progesterone. So this is wrong. We got the answer anyway. C is the correct answer. Previously we got it. Yes. The pregnant female delivers a baby who suffers from stunted growth, mental retardation, low intelligence quotient, and abnormal skin. This is a result of. This is called cretinism, or the cretin baby. This baby or cretin babies, or it is called cretinism. Why does it happen? Tell me. Why does it happen? Because there will be a hyposecretion of thyroid hormone. Otherwise you call it as hypothyroidism. Yes. So this is kind of an indirect question. Why does hypothyroidism occurs? Because of deficiency of iodine in diet. Okay. Triiodothyrosin, tetraiodothyrosin, because it is the deficiency, because of the deficiency of iodine in the diet, it leads to hypothyroidism. The hypothyroidism, that is previously in the previous question we learned, the pregnant women, they need hypersecretion. There will be hypersecretion of thyroid hormone will be taking place because of the high basal metabolic rate of the because it will be helping in development of fetus properly. If hyposecretion takes place or hypothyroidism takes place, all these problems like the baby will be suffered from stunted growth, mental retardation, low intelligence quotient, abnormal skin. So these things will happen. Understood? Because of the deficiency of the iron. This is really a good question, kind of indirect. Now coming to the adrenal gland and pancreas. Now you need to match list 1 with list 2. Epinephrine is a, epinephrine we call it as adrenaline. It's a emergency hormone. Yes. Thyroxine is, yes, Yes, basal metabolic rate. Oxytocin. Oxytocin will be released during the parturition, that is delivery of the fetus, where it will be acting on the uterine smooth muscles of the uterus, and it will be contracting it, that is smooth muscle contraction. Glucagon. Glucagon, it is produced by the pancreas, especially it is the alpha cells of the pancreas. What is the function of it? The function of it is hyperglycemia. Hyperglycemia means, what this glucagon does? Actually, it converts glycogen to glucose. When it converts glycogen to glucose, the glucose causes the hyperglycemia in the blood. The increased glucose in the blood leads to hyperglycemia. Understood? One second. Okay. So, which means D1. A4, B3 and C2, D1. C is the correct answer. Any doubts? Again match the list. Okay. Exophthalmic goiter. Exophthalmic goiter, actually hyperthyroidism. Because of the hyperthyroidism, exophthalmic goiter takes place, which means hypersecretion of thyroid hormone and protruding eyeballs. Can you relate it? Exo means out, okay, out. Exo means out. Opthal means related to eyes, isn't it? Ophthalmology. The doctor, who studies related to eye. So, X means out, ophthalmic means eye, and is goiter, which means you will outward eyes. The people who will be suffering from protruding eyes, that we call it as ophthalmic goiter, hypersecretion of thyroid hormone and protruding eyeballs. Acromegaly, we already discussed about the growth hormone. Excessive secretion of growth hormone leads to gigantism, otherwise it is called as acromegaly. Cushing's syndrome, otherwise it is called as moon face syndrome, moon face disease. Moon face disease, that is excess secretion of cortisol, excess secretion of cortisol, moon face and hyperglycemia. And what do you mean by cretinism? Cretinism we just discussed this. Cretinism, hyposecretion of thyroid hormone and stunted growth in the fetus, the developing fetus. So, what is the answer? A3, B4, okay, both option has that. C1, D2, B4 Bombay is a correct answer. Understood? The presence of which of the following condition in urine are indicative of diabetes mellitus? Diabetes mellitus caused by hyposecretion, or this one we call it as insulin. Because of the insulin, because of the pancreas, hyposecretion leads to diabetes mellitus, which means there will be glucose in urea, because if insulin is less produced or insufficient or it is not produced at all, then there will be no conversion of glucose to glycogen. There will be excess of glucose in the blood. Anyway, as excess, it will act as waste material. You can see in the urea as well, that is urine as well, glucose urea and ketonuria. The ketone bodies in urea as well as the glucose in the urea is a condition we can see, that is ketonuria and glucosuria, if there is a person who is suffering from diabetes mellitus. Understood? Any doubts? Match the following columns. Pituitary, okay, we will see. Pancreas leads to, insufficient secretion of insulin leads to diabetes mellitus, and adrenal gland, hyposecretion, Addison's disease, yes, insufficient production then of glucocorticoids leads to Addison disease. Thyroid gland, Graves disease, that is hyperthyroidism, we call it as Graves disease. Pituitary gland, why it is given diabetes insipidus, because what leads to diabetes insipidus, that is decreased secretion of ADH. Decreased secretion of ADH. If there is no vasopressin secretion, or if it is decreased production of vasopressin or ADH, leads to diabetes insipidus, that is diuresis, right? It leads to diuresis. So, that we call it as diabetes insipidus, and it has got nothing to do with the sugar here. About the insulin, glucose is converted into glycogen. So, it is only has to do with ADH. Decreased production of ADH or vasopressin leads to diuresis. That is what we call it as diabetes insipidus. And why pituitary gland? Because this ADH is stored in the pituitary gland, that is neurohypophysis or posterior pituitary. That's why. Now match it. 1, 3, 2, 1. Yes, B for Bombay is a correct answer. Which of the following would help in prevention of diuresis? Tell me. Reabsorption of Na plus and water from the renal tubules due to aldosterone. Aldosterone, yes. Atrial natriuretic factor causes vasoconstriction. First of all, it doesn't cause vasoconstriction, it causes vasodilation, and atrial natriuretic factor actually promotes diuresis. So, it's a completely wrong answer. And it promotes diuresis in a sense, actually stops it is a negative feedback mechanism on RAS mechanism, right? So, anyway, B is wrong answer. Decrease in secretion of renin by JG cells. It should be increased secretion of renin by JG cells, that is juxtaglomerular cells which secrete renin. Renin in turns convert the angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1, then angiotensin 2, then angiotensin 2 will stimulate the production of aldosterone from the adrenal cortex, which prevent the diuresis. So, is it decrease? No, it should be increase. So, this is wrong. More water reabsorption due to under secretion of ADH. No, under secretion of ADH doesn't give to reabsorption. First of all, we need to increase the secretion of ADH, then only it prevents the diuresis, which means this is also wrong. Anyway, we got the answer at the first, that is reabsorption of Na plus and water from the renal tubules due to aldosterone. What it does actually, it increase the BP, which increase the glomerular filtrate rate, and ultimately it prevent the diuresis. Concentration of urine takes place, no frequent urination. Easy question, isn't it? Yesterday itself we learned about this. Select the correct statement. Glucagon is associated with hypoglycemia. What glucagon does? Glucagon secreted by alpha cells of the pancreas. What it does? Actually, it converts glycogen to glucose. Okay. If it is converting glycogen to glucose, glucose is more in blood, which leads to hyperglycemia, hyper. So this is wrong. Insulin acts on pancreatic cell and adipocytes. Insulin acts on hepatocytes. Hepatocytes in a sense, these are liver cells. Okay, hepatocytes, hepato, liver. Okay, hepatocytes and adipocytes. So which means this is wrong. They have given pancreatic cells. Insulin is associated with hyperglycemia. What insulin does? Insulin is produced by beta cells of the pancreas, okay, beta cells. And what does insulin do? Insulin converts glucose to glycogen. Okay, if the glucose is converted to glycogen, there is no glucose in the blood now, or the very less glucose in the blood, which should be hypoglycemia. Here they have given hyperglycemia, so that is wrong. Glucocorticoids stimulates gluconeogenesis. Glucocorticoids, so this glucocorticoids is produced by which one? Which?
Adrenal cortex.
Adrenal cortex, very good. So in adrenal cortex, which one? If it is it the glomerular or fasciculata or reticularis? It is from the fasciculata, it produces glucocorticoids. Reticulata, it produces sex corticoids like androgens. Okay, and I mean slight amount of, not much, and this produce glucocorticoids. This produce mineralocorticoids. Here glucocortic. Now coming to the question, glucocorticoids. What it does? Actually, it regulate glucose mechanism, right? Or carbohydrate mechanism, you can say. Carbohydrate mechanism. Carbohydrate mechanism. So which means gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis is production of glucose, since this production of, that's conversion of glucose from other, neogenesis from newer substance, like maybe from the protein or maybe from the fats. You are converting the protein, fats, especially fats, to glucose. And yes, it is carbohydrate mechanism only. You are converting the fats into glucose. The glucose is a carbohydrate. So we can say that glucocorticoids stimulate the gluconeogenesis as correct answer. D is the correct answer. Any doubts regarding this? Yes. Match the following. Insulin, deficiency of or insufficient production of insulin leads to diabetes mellitus. Okay, we can eliminate D and B. And thyroxine, goiter. Corticoids, glucocorticoids. The hyposecretion of glucocorticoids leads to Addison disease, right? Growth hormone or increased production of growth hormone in adults leads to acromegaly. Okay, so now we deleted 2, so D 4, which means C is the correct answer. We C1 and D3. Understood? C is the correct answer. Graves' disease is caused due to, what is Graves' disease? Graves' disease means hyperthyroidism. Hyposecretion of adrenal gland नहीं है, तो mark कर दो. It is something to do with the thyroid gland. hyper secretion of thyroid gland, that is hyper secretion, that is hyperthyroidism, isn't it? D for Delhi is the correct answer. Any doubts in this? It was such an easy question. Yes, hypersecretion of thyroid gland leads to Graves' disease. The chemical signal that has both endocrine and neural role is, tell me, the chemical signal that has both endocrine and neural role is, the option, the correct, it is actually epinephrine. Epinephrine, otherwise you call it as emergency hormone. Okay, that is adrenaline. Adrenaline, you know, it has an endocrine function as well as it acts as a neurotransmitter as well. Neurotransmitter. Okay, neurotransmitter. Epinephrine, it is a, you know, it endocrine hormone, catecholamine, it is a catecholamine, and it is also a neurotransmitter. So it has got both role, endocrine role also and neural role also. Understood? So it is epinephrine. Which one of the following hormone is not involved in sugar metabolism? Okay. Insulin. Insulin, now tell me. Insulin converts glucose to glycogen. Not glucagon. Glucagon is a hormone. Glycogen is a stored form of food in animals. Glucagon is a hormone. It is produced by pancreas, especially the islets of Langerhans cells है ना, उसमें alpha cells produce glucagon. Insulin is produced to glycogen, and this one, oh, the answer you said glucagon. No, because glucagon converts glycogen to glucose. Sugar metabolism में है ना, this one is also. And cortisone, especially glucocorticoid, cortisone, that is glucocorticoids, as I explained previously, they are in the carbohydrate metabolism. Carbohydrate metabolism. These three are there. We need to find not involved. Aldosterone, does it have anything to do with the carbohydrate metabolism or sugar metabolism or sugar metabolism? Understand? Insulin is a hormone produced by beta cells in the pancreas, which converts glucose to glycogen. Okay, this is stored form, stored. Okay, it will be stored in hepatocytes, the liver cells, or it will be stored in the form of fat in the adipose tissue. Adipose tissue means the tissue which is beneath the skin, that is adipose tissue. As a glycogen, as a fat, it will be stored. And these two does the opposite job. These two does the opposite job. What glucagon? It is produced by the alpha cells of the this one pancreas. What it does? It converts glycogen to glucose. It also in the sugar metabolism now. Cortisone, glucocorticoids. Example. No, actually, glucocorticoid example is, yes, cortisol. It is helping in carbohydrate metabolism. So the left one is the aldosterone. It has got nothing to do with the glucose metabolism. Understood? Fight or flight reaction cause activation of fight or flight, that is adrenaline rush, adrenaline release. The pancreas, no. The parathyroid, no. Why? Parathyroid leading to increased metabolic rate. The kidney leading to the suppression of renin-angiotensin. The adrenal medulla leading to the increased secretion of epinephrine and norepinephrine. These are emergency hormone. Emergency hormone, isn't it? Fight or flight reaction is emergency reaction. Whether you flight or you run away from the situation or turn back or fight that particular situation. That is fight or flight. That is emergency situation, we call it as. When in the emergency situation, emergency hormones will be released, easy as that, and the emergency hormone are epinephrine and norepinephrine, otherwise you call it as adrenaline or noradrenaline. T is the correct answer. Why we have to do anything with the pancreas, parathyroid or kidney? Nothing. So, now coming to the testis ovary hormones of heart, kidney and gastrointestinal tract. Identify the wrong statements. We need to find the wrong statement here. That is, erythropoietin is produced by juxtaglomerular cells of the kidney. Erythropoietin is produced by the kidney, which what function? It increases the RBC production, red blood cell production. Correct. Leydig cells produce androgen. That is also correct. Atrial natriuretic factor, a peptide hormone, is secreted by the seminiferous tubule of the testis. Okay, atrial natriuretic ANF is produced by the heart. It is cholecystokinin is produced by gastrointestinal tract. Yes, it is produced by the intestine, that is gastrointestinal tract. Gastrin acts on intestinal wall and helps in production of pepsinogen. Actually, it helps in production of pepsinogen तो ठीक है, लेकिन intestinal wall, no, it is wall of stomach. It acts on where gastrin is produced. Gastrin is produced in the stomach, right? This one, gastrin, it is produced in the stomach wall and it acts on the stomach wall, gastrin. What it does? Actually, the production of pepsinogen and HCl from the wall of the stomach, it takes place. So, that's why we need to read the question very carefully, because we see the production of pepsinogen, it is correct, but is it on the walls of the intestine? No, it's walls on the stomach, isn't it? So, we got E as a wrong answer, this as wrong answer. So, we need to find the wrong statement. C and E are the wrong statement, C and E are the wrong statement. We got it, C is the right answer. Now, match list 1 and 2. Cholecystokinin. Okay, ADH is kidney. Okay, we'll mark D1. Okay, D1 all. ANF, that is atrial natriuretic factor produced by heart. Gastric inhibitory peptide is produced by, it is not produced, it will be acting on gastric gland, it will be acting on the gastric gland. CCK, it will also be acting on pancreas, it says to release pancreatic juice, isn't it? So, oh, is this such a hodgepodge? We will again mark. ADH produced by kidney, ANF heart, GIP gastric inhibitory peptide, it acts on gastric gland, that is stomach, and it is a negative inhibitory peptide. It tells to stop, it is a negative response to stop the production of gastrin. It tells to stop the production of gastrin, yes. And CCK, pancreas. So, A4, so we can eliminate these two, and B3, we got the answer, B for Bombay is the correct answer, C2D1, C2D1, understood? Erythropoietin hormone, which stimulates RBC production, is produced by, tell me, easy as that. We already did this in the previous question.
Option C.
Yes, JG cells of the kidney. JG cells of the kidney, easy as that, very easy question. Which of the following columns? Match the following columns and select the correct answer. Okay. Ovary. Tell me first. Ovary.
Estrogen,
Progesterone. Placenta. Do you know in 12th standard? Yes. HCG and corpus luteum.
Progesterone only.
Leydig cell. Androgen, which is left. Okay. 1, 2, 2, 1. Okay. So C is the correct answer, isn't it? Yes. The following pairs of the hormones are not antagonist. Antagonist in a sense, they have opposite roles. So if one thing does A, it does ulta of the A, like that. Okay. Parathyroid and calcitonin. Parathyroid hormone, what it does, it actually increases the level of calcium in blood. Calcitonin, what it does, thyrocalcitonin, it actually decreases the level of calcium in blood. So they are doing the opposite action. Yes. Insulin decrease or it leads to hypoglycemia. Glucagon, it leads to hyperglycemia. So opposite. Yes. Aldosterone, it prevents diuresis. Atrial natric uretic factor, actually it does the opposite as aldosterone. It does the negative effect of aldosterone. These are also negative. Relaxin and inhibin, these are not antagonists of each other, isn't it? What relaxin does during the delivery, that is parturition, it actually loosens up the muscle in the pelvic area for the easy passage of the fetus out of the fetus delivery. So inhibin, it inhibits FSH, it inhibits FSH. So anything doing any opposite work are they doing? They are not doing anything. So like opposite to each other, effects opposite to each other. So D for Delhi is the correct answer. Which hormone do stimulate the production of pancreatic juice and bicarbonate? Tell me. Direct question from the NCERT, nothing to do with it. Do with any other. It's a direct question, one liner. Is it got anything to do with pancreatic juice and bicarbonate? Definitely it is. CCK and secretin. The hormone do stimulate the production of pancreatic juice and bicarbonate. What this secretin does, from it is from the intestine. It acts on pancreas and positive regulation. It tells the pancreas to produce bicarbonate and water. Okay, the secretin. And this one, cholecystokinin, what it does, it actually tells the pancreas to release the pancreatic juice. Also it tells the liver to release bile juice, gallbladder, especially the gallbladder, to release bile juice, and it tells the pancreas to release pancreatic juice. Understood? So it is A is the correct answer. So the following statement is correct in relation to the endocrine system. Okay. Releasing and inhibitory hormone are produced by pituitary gland. Releasing and inhibitory hormones are produced by which gland? Hypothalamus, isn't it? Some of the releasing hormones, that is GnRH, that is gonadotropin releasing hormone. Somatostatin is an inhibitory hormone. That is a function of hypothalamus. Adenohypophysis, which means pars distalis, or otherwise you call it as anterior pituitary, is under the direct neural regulation of hypothalamus? No, there is a portal system to it, isn't it? It is not direct. It is not direct perfectly under the neural regulation. So, see, organs in the body like gastrointestinal tract, heart, kidney and liver do not produce any hormones. Is it so? No. Heart produce ANF. Gastrointestinal tract produce secretin, then gastrin, stomach produce this, and then CCK, inhibitory peptide, gastric inhibitory peptide. So, all the kidney produce erythropoietin, isn't it? So many things it is like these organs are producing. So, which means this is wrong. Do not produce, it is written. Non-nutrient chemical produced by the body in trace amount that act as an intercellular messenger are known as hormone. Perfectly. This is a definition for hormone. Definition for hormone. If they ask what is hormone, you can tell they are non-nutrient chemicals. If they are nutrient, it will be taken up during the passage, like from secretory organ to target system. By the way they are coming, if they are nutrients, then they would have taken up by the other cells. So, they should be non-nutrient, isn't it? They should only go to the target cells. So, it must be non-nutrient, produced by the body in trace amount. Yes, it is trace amount, and that act as an intercellular messenger are known as hormone. This is a perfect definition for hormone. So, D is the correct answer. Which of the following is not true? Which of the following is not the function of placenta? Tell me. Secretes oxytocin during parturition. Which secretes oxytocin? Tell me. Which secretes oxytocin? Oxytocin is secreted by? It is produced by hypothalamus and is secreted by pituitary. It is secreted, or the production is taking place in the hypothalamus and it is stored and secreted from pituitary. So, we got it. Which one of the following is not the function? Yes. Facilitates supply of oxygen and nutrients into embryo. Yes, placenta does that. Secrete estrogen. Yes, it does. Facilitate the removal of carbon dioxide and waste material from the embryo. It does that. So, any doubts? A is the correct answer. Mechanism of hormone action. Which of the following is not a steroidal hormone? Not a steroid hormone. Progesterone is a steroid hormone. Cortisol, lipid, that is steroid hormone. Testosterone is steroid hormone. What about the glucagon? This is the peptide hormone. Peptide hormone. Protein. Given below two statements, one is labeled as assertion and reason. Okay. FSH, follicular stimulating hormone, which interacts with the membrane bound receptor, does not enter the target cell. So, we need to find that FSH, it is also peptide hormone, okay, which interacts with the membrane bound receptors. Why? Because they cannot enter into the cell, right? So, they have to, nothing else they can be doing. Okay, they have to interact with the membrane bound receptor and they does not enter the target cell. What this membrane bound receptors, actually it gives the secondary messenger the message. Okay, binding of SH to the receptor generate the second messenger. It may be cyclic AMP for its biochemical and physiological response. Okay, so this is also true, but is it the correct reason? We will see. FSH, which interacts with membrane bound receptors, does not enter the cell because binding of FSH to its receptors generates second messenger for its biochemical and physiological response. Tell me. Both are correct. Is it correctly explaining? Both are correct. But what they should be giving, FSH which interacts with the membrane bound receptor does not enter the target cell because it is made up of peptide. If it would be made up of steroid, then it would have entered. So, that could be the reason. But what they have given is the effect, I mean next to what happens after it bind to the primary receptor on the wall, I mean on the cell membrane. The next response will be the reason, but it is not the correct explanation, right? So, we can say that it is not the correct explanation. So, what is the correct explanation? Because it is made up of peptide, it is made up of protein. So, it cannot enter the cell. That is the correct explanation. Understood? Match the following columns. Pituitary hormone, okay, we will see. Cortisol is a steroid, 4-1. Okay, we have only one there. Okay, we will anyway this thing. Endorphins are neuropeptides. Epinephrine is a peptide or protein. Pituitary hormone is a biogenic amines. Okay, so this is the correct answer. This is the total hodgepodge. I will again mark it. Cortisol is a steroid. Endorphins is a neuropeptides, and epinephrine is a peptide hormone, and pituitary hormones are biogenic amines. They are amines. So, 4-1, we have got only one here. Oh, I made a mistake. I am really sorry. Pituitary hormones are peptide hormones, right? I am really sorry. Pituitary hormones are peptide hormones. Example, FSH, we were reading before, right? FSH, LH, all these are peptide hormones, or it is made up of protein. And epinephrine is actually biogenic amine, which is for catecholamines. Epinephrines are catecholamines. And it is a derivative of tyrosine. Tyrosine is a amino acid, right? It is a tyrosine is a amino acid. Amino acid are amines, biogenic amines. Epinephrine are, yeah, they are also proteins. Okay, fine. So, this is amino acid. The epinephrine, otherwise you call it as adrenaline. Adrenaline are catecholamines. What is it derived from? The derivative of it is, these epinephrine are from tyrosine. Tyrosine is a amino acid. So, they are biogenic amines. Endorphins are neuropeptides. Endorphins. Okay. So, is it now 1, A3, B4 and C2? Understood? My bad, I am really sorry. How does steroid hormone influence the cellular activities? How steroid hormones influence the cellular activities? Changing the permeability of the cell membrane. Now, why would it change the permeability of the cell membrane? Binding to the DNA and forming the gene hormone complex. Steroid hormones, which means they can directly enter the cell wall, even they can enter the nuclear membrane, and they can go and directly bind to the DNA, which leads to biochemical change, and then it can be physiological change also, which leads to physiological change. So, which means this is true. Activating cyclic AMP? No, it does not need. Cyclic AMP is secondary messenger, because steroid hormones which can directly enter the cell wall, why would it need the secondary messenger? It does not need secondary messenger. Using aquaporin channels as a secondary messengers? No. Why would they? Aquaporin is for water molecules. Why would they need it? And changing the permeability of the cell membrane, why would they change the permeability of the cell membrane? They can directly enter to it. Okay, binding to DNA and forming the gene hormone complex. This is the correct. B for Bombay is a correct answer. Which of the following is an amino acid derivative hormone. Now tell me. Previous to previous question we discussed this. Very good, Kiran. Epinephrine. What it is made up of? It is made up of tyrosine, which is an amino acid. Tyrosine, which is an amino acid. Name the peptide hormone which acts mainly on hepatocytes, adipocytes and enhances cellular glucose intake. Especially in the hepatocytes and adipocytes. Tell me. घुमा फिरा के वही बात पूछ रहे हैं. Name the peptide hormone which acts as hepatocytes, adipocytes and enhance cellular glucose uptake and utilization. That is, yes, insulin. Very good. It's insulin. The amino acid tryptophan is a precursor for the synthesis of. Actually, you might be not be knowing, but the answer to this question is A. The thing is, the tryptophan, first it will be converted to serotonin, okay, then it will be converted to melatonin. Serotonin will be converted into melatonin. All are neurotransmitters, serotonin and melatonin. What does melatonin does? It helps in sleep-wake cycle, and serotonin, it's a mood enhancer. If serotonin is released, you'll be in a better mood. Understood? So these are which is important, and the precursor for these two is a amino acid tryptophan. Tryptophan is a aromatic amino acid. This is a amino acid. Amino acid, that is it's written, it's a aromatic amino acid. With this we will just say that what are the other example of aromatic amino acids? One is tyrosine, which we learned in the previous question, PYQ, and another one is phenylalanine. Phenylalanine. In the name it's a phenyl, the group is there, aromatic group. So these three are aromatic amino acid, which is important by biochemistry. In the biochemistry chapter, just go through and revise it. Important because many of the times they have asked like aromatic amino acid example, or the amino acids which have the hydroxyl group, the amino acid which are basic, the amino acid which are acidic, the amino acid which have sulfur group containing amino acids, such things. Understood? All factual questions, theory. So this is the end of the chapter. With this chapter, we are closing class 11 biology. So understood? I hope you understood today's topic. Any doubts regarding today's topic, you can ask me. Shivu, Surabhi, Kiran, thank you so much. I'm glad everybody understood. So any doubts? Any doubts? If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Yes, no doubts for Surabhi? No, Sakshi has no doubt, yes, fine. So if there is no doubt, you can go read and you can revise this one, chemical coordination and integration chapter. Just revise once so that you will get a better clarity on concepts. Understanding? So that is the end of the chapter and end of class 11 biology also. So I hope you understood it. So if there is no doubts or questions, you can leave the call. So this is the end of the chapter. Thank you so much.